Oh, recording has started just now. Anyway, so it is meant for system developers because it is this low-code platform where anyone can really create their own applications internally, like in their teams, in their own small groups. But we can as well grant or use this platform to really build a lot of solutions for the whole organization to make the work on the work in teams more efficient, to build applications to help other employees to work to have their work done faster. So to create like onboarding systems, HR applications, maybe financial requests, and so on. And anything that you just imagine can be seamlessly built into Microsoft Teams without actually a need to create hundreds of SharePoint sites, SharePoint lists where you will be storing the information. Just think of Microsoft Teams as the new SharePoint for the modern workplace, for the modern collaboration. Well, all right. So, simple to build, seamlessly to deploy because it's just to export a package and import a package. And lastly, it's really too easy to manage since everything is actually the same way as it used to be when we were working the Power Platform back in the days that we have CDS and everything was like in the solutions under the mac.powerapps.com or flow.microsoft.com. So this is just the same experience, just the same experience, but moved into the Microsoft Teams canvas. So without this further ado, I want just to switch into Microsoft Teams and simply show you what this is all about, how it is looking like, and what you actually can do on Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. And now this is the first gap. If there are any questions, write them down. I don't see anything yet. So I assume there are no questions yet. All right. You go away. So to start with Microsoft Dataverse in Microsoft Teams, if you don't see this application, Power Apps application here yet, you need to go under the ellipsis icon. And there, if you cannot see it right straight away, you need to type in Power Apps and it should appear. So simply click it. Then I encourage you as well to pin so that it won't go away. Now, if you don't see this application here, if you don't see Power Apps here, then possibly your Microsoft Teams admin has disabled it. So that's a request to your admin to enable you to use Power Apps. Okay, and now, once you open the Power Apps, this is like the center of the whole Dataverse. So even though it says Power Apps, it is actually the gate, the entrance for you to see all the applications, all the flows, all the contents that are stored in that Dataverse that have been built in every team that you have an access to. So now once you navigate to build, you will see all the teams that your user is a member of, and that all teams where anything has been already built or something has already been built. What you can see here are the environments built for Microsoft Teams exclusively. So once you navigate to Power Platform Admin Center, you will notice that any Dataverse for Microsoft Teams that has been created is actually this light version of an environment present inside the Power Platform Admin Center. So right now, you can see that I have chose 2 Microsoft Teams environments. And well, one by default. So if I would like, for example, to create a new solution in the environment that is not yet present, or for a team that doesn't have yet an environment, so like, for example, digital initiative, then you'll be first informed that you're the first person to create the app, and this will take a bit longer. And that is because between you click create and you will be able to actually create anything, the environment has to be provisioned. So because we don't have a lot of time, I will simply navigate to one that I already have, and I will go to retail. Now, I have already some of these pieces created because I knew that I won't be able to do it from scratch. I wanted as well to remove the categories and the table. Oh, my bad. But I just wasn't able because it has some dependencies, and I didn't manage to simply remove them and remove the categories, but that doesn't matter. So the point is, I will create now or complete this scenario where I have my small Dataverse that will be that will be used to store best practices, split between the categories, and as well to create a bot, which only purpose is going to help users to report or to send their own best ideas. Then there is also this Power Automate, which will be used to approve this best idea by the owner of the specific category. And lastly, the application is going to be used just to go through and see what are the best practices submitted. Quite simple, but I want to go through every possible part of this Dataverse. So first, I want to go to the best practices table. And this table already has some of the columns created. So now you can see that its layout, I mean, what you can see here is nothing really different to what we know from the old legacy CDS. The major difference is on the edit data level. So here we have this kind of SharePoint lists approach where we can actually simply create new columns just by clicking this plus button, and like everything can be done dynamically. So sorting, changing order of columns, showing, hiding columns, creating views, everything can be done just using this what you see is what you get approach. So what I want to do, I want to create a category column. So to make a lookup from the best practice to category, so that once there is a new request created, the flow will be able to find out who the approver should be. And what you already saw, for example, on many of these screenshots from Dataverse is that if you have a choice column, you can as well create those colors for labels that you can use, which is fancy, nice. It helps you to differentiate the values. So the category is created. I have now the relationship. So what I want to do next is I want to go back to the categories, simply to show you what can be found in there. So that's a very simple table. It is only built from 2 columns, basically. The first one is the column called the name, so the category name. And the other one is the approver. So the person who should be notified that there is a new request pending for approval. So that's the categories. And now the next step I want to do is to simply go to my Power Automate. So this is the Power Automate or the Cloud Flow that I will be calling from Power Virtual Agent, so that the Power Virtual Agents will be really able to pass data from the conversation and then get it back. To do that, I need to simply edit it and complete its design, because it somehow is already built, but it doesn't have all the outcomes. So what is significant, what is mandatory when you're building a Power Automate, again, a cloud flow that you would like to be able to call from the chatbot, is that it has to be triggered by this Power Virtual Agents trigger. It is quite similar to what we know from the manual trigger. And also, it has to have this return action, kind of a lookup list. Here I don't get the point about your question, but let's move it to that in a moment. So anyway, there are 2 requirements. First is that this flow has to be triggered by that trigger, and it has to have reachable action to return information. Well, because this workflow is also going to stop and wait for approval, I made this kind of a parallel branch because I wanted to simply send the response back to the user that, hey, your request has been submitted immediately, not to like put a bot on hold for, I don't know, 3 days or more maybe, until the approval is done. So this is the request and this is the response. And here on the right side, there is the actual logic of the flow. So first, what it's doing is crawling or is browsing the categories, and the categories where the name of the category is equal the one sent by the user or selected by the user. Now, What I need to check, because I didn't do that, is if this name is actually still valid. So, excuse me, I just need to go back to the title and to check if the internal name of the category name actually is the one I'm using there. Where is the name? Well, yes, 551. All right, so that's okay. I'll now just go back to editing of the flow. I don't know how about you, but I personally really don't like when I'm building a relevant, quite simple flows, maybe speaking these words, quite simple flows, and they are failing. This is just frustrating, really. That's something that should be simple, is still making you a lot of troubles and is failing. So anyway, first I'm listing the records and trying to get the one that has the name of the category selected by the user. Then what I want to do is to create this new record in the best practices. So I'm just like creating the record. And then, well, there is this applied to each, because even though there should be only one category selected by the list records, this will always be returned in the table format. So then it will be considered by the Power Automate as something to enumerate over. So right now, what I have to do, I need to do like two things. First, I need to actually relate these records. So you can see that in the Dataverse for Microsoft Teams, there is this set of actions under the Dataverse, still Common Data Service current environment. So these are the actions we can actually use in Microsoft Teams, and they are for free. So we are not really paying anything for that, because they are acquiring this Dataverse for Teams environment. So here I need to find the relate records. So I want to relate my best practices record, best practices. Now I need to find, not this, I think this is the ID. Then the relationship should be the one with the categories. Maybe that should be from the other perspective, so from category to the best practices. Yeah, that's here. And then the full URL. That should be this old data. Yeah, that was a good question. Which should I use here? Anyone? Maybe this one. I think was this one. So this should create me this relationship between the categories and the best practice, I hope. And now the next thing I want to do is actually to post an adaptive card to the person who is selected as the approver for this chosen category. So I need to go to Microsoft Teams, and there is an action called send an adaptive card to a Teams user and wait for the response. And here I want to send it to approver. Sorry, to this one. It's clicking too fast, to be honest. To the approver. And then the message, I already have it created here in the side note. So this is the design of the adaptive card. You'll see how it looks like once it is sent. So that's the adaptive card. I hope that all this information is correct. Now I want to close this adaptive card and say yes. And then what I also have to do is to say that if the approval outcome is approved, then there is again this issue. So I again have to, to use the stored expression. because for some reason, sometimes those outcomes of the adaptive cards action are not present as the dynamic outcomes here. And then to update the record with the outcome approved. All right. Okay, no, it's not okay. So what is not okay? Yeah. And why it's not visible here fully? Get a record. You see, even though I had it prepared, there's still demo gods trying to actually fight, and they don't accept it should be working. Possibly one of these values is wrong. Or maybe not. Yeah, it turns out it is. One of them was wrong. Right. So just again. Let's say the category. Let me just type in everything from scratch. Oh gosh, I just have 5 minutes. And it was meant to be faster this way, huh? But it's still not. Anyway, okay, that's safe. And so last thing I have to do is actually to bind the Power Virtual agent with this flow. So that is going to be the last step, and hopefully this will work. But I just have this gut feeling it won't, because why should it? So now, anyway, the last step is the chatbot. So chatbot actually opens in its own application. So there is a second application called Power Virtual Agent. It's also opening within Microsoft Teams Canvas, however, not inside this Power Apps experience as the Power Apps and the Power Automate. But still, it has this small ribbon or the breadcrumbs here, so you can navigate back to the Dataverse area. So the chatbot actually is built from, well, it has multiple functionalities. So if you haven't heard yet about the Power Virtual agents and would like to learn more, I simply encourage you to go to, for example, to my YouTube channel and to learn more about the PVA. However, needless to say, it has a lot of functionalities around creating those conversations. So right now I went to topic. Topic is this the most important thing in Power Virtual agents. It defines this trigger. So how should the bot react when the user types in a specific keywords or specific sentences? And then here you define the whole conversation flow. So what is the exchange between the questions and answers from the bot and the user? So basically the bot here is asking user for the title of the best practice, to provide the abstract, and to choose the category. And lastly, once the category is chosen and the user says, okay, that's it, that's what I wanted to have, then the bot needs to call the action. And right here, the action can be this flow that I've just created. So to call it now, I need to provide information about the user. Here I have to provide the bot user ID, which is the AAD of the user who is signed in and is using the bot. Therefore, I'm able to, for example, get users picture, get users manager, and so on. Now the title, the abstract, and the category. All right, so right now I can save it, and then I can simply type in one of those keywords to see if this is working. So, for example, best practice. The point is, you don't really have to really type in those sentences in the same format as they used to be provided as the trigger phrases in here, because the bot itself is training and is building a model on top of those provided examples. And then even if user types in something different, but is meaning simply fairly the same as the trigger phrases provided by the author, then the bot knows, okay, this is the topic I should choose. So first I should name it. I'll just name it as test. Then the abstract. Let's leave some data. And I will go into the maybe well-being, because there should be Adele once. Yes, everything is fine. So right now the bot is going to trigger this Power Automate. So if that was the Adele once, actually, then I need to navigate to her teams. And it seems that there was an error, actually. So I'm just going to flow details and just to see what happened there. Yeah, of course it failed. That's what I told you. So there has to be an error in this mapping. So do you still have a little bit of time, or should you do want to? Yeah, that's a good question. If that's the correct one, maybe that was the categories ID here. And there should be this OData, and I think this was the OData of. Hopefully that one. So, as this is feasible with any other Power Automate, I can simply go and resubmit it just to see if it will work for the second time. Right. And there is now an issue with the image URI. Where is the image URI here? Oh gosh. Yeah, possibly here. I should simply put here something different. So I need to put here the expression that is the data URI. And just give me this one last time to resubmit it. And hopefully this time, this will simply let me go through this navigation between the bot and the flow and resubmitting, and wow, everything is not that very fluent as I would like it to have. So right now it should go and assign a card to Adele, who on or Oh, there it is. Yes. So there is this adaptive card, quite simple, with information who created this request, the information. Thank you, Frederick, for this advice that it was the wrong idea I used. So right now, Adele can simply approve it. And this record is going to be now registered in the database. So I could now go into these Power Apps. Yeah, it does seem more realistic, but it's as well more frustrating from my perspective. So here, in these best practices, this app is also, I mean, it requires a lot of fine-tuning and rework. However, you can simply have this overall feeling that if this was a really nice looking application, then simply by using that, users could be able to like navigate and see this requested best practice with information that, well, has been submitted, right? So this way you can actually build your applications. And then lastly, once you are done with all this creation of all the things, as well, you can publish to teams. So the application can be published to teams. By doing that, you will be simply able to download its package. So like this way. Right, you will be able to add it to a channel, but as well, you are able somehow, where it was. Oh gosh, it's just changing all the time. So anyway, you were also able, or you should be able to download this package and simply get it and then upload it via the Microsoft Teams admin channel here from Manage Apps perspective to upload and then to add it to the company-wide. So anyone in any Microsoft team should be able to use it then. There was somewhere this functionality, and I don't recall where this is at the moment, but the same happens for Power Virtual Agents. So in Power Virtual Agents, you can as well go into publishing here, and then you are able, this is more seamlessly done. So you can share the bot, and here you can choose whether you want to share it with your team only or submit it for Teams approval. And then once it's submitted for Teams approval, it will simply appear here as the bot as application. So everything that you are building on Dataverse and you would like to share with all the company has to go through the Microsoft Teams approval. So they will be simply appearing here, and then Teams admin has to let them to be allowed or not. And so this is how it works. Okay, all right. So I still have 10 minutes. If you have questions, then that's the right time. I just wanted to say just one last word about the pricing. So because Microsoft Dataverse is a part of Microsoft Teams, it is free. I mean, you need to have Microsoft Teams license to access Microsoft Teams, but then you don't need to have an additional license for Flow or for Power Automate. I mean, unless you are going to, or you are going for premium functionalities, for premium features. So if in Microsoft, if in Power Automate, if in those cloud flows, you would like to use any premium actions, then, well, obviously you need to have a license. If in Power Apps, for example, you would like to use custom connectors, you need to have a license, you need to have a subscription. If in Power Virtual Agents, you would like to use authentication different from the Microsoft Teams one, so if you'd like to, for example, use authentication based on Azure AD, which gives you lots of more possibilities actually to work in the context of the user, or if you'd like to use bot framework functionalities, then you also need a premium license. So as long as you're within those basic functionalities, basic standard features, then you're really covered under the seeded license of Microsoft Teams. But anywhere you'd like to go above, you have to pay. And that is basically it. So I hope that apart from all these issues that have occurred and some problems with relationships in database, you got at least inspired around what the Dataverse is. You got somehow influenced how to start using it, and well, what is the purpose of this whole platform, and then maybe already some ideas were born in your minds how to use this platform in your own companies, in your own projects. Do you have a recommendation for additional training? So honestly, I don't know. I haven't been looking for this myself. So where to find additional training for Dataverse for Teams? Frankly speaking, I would say that if you go to the learnmicrosoft.com, there you can find a lot of information about training around the regular Dataverse and Power Apps and Flow and Power Virtual Agents. And you can simply start from there, because the Dataverse for Teams is really nothing different to what you can use in the basic Power Platform. I mean, it's much less than what you can do in Power Platform. The slides, yes, I think I will be able to share. It is, yes, it does have a good documentation. I mean, enough of documentation. Thanks, Sal, yes. the Microsoft Learn, and also the Dataverse has its own documentation as well. And of course, you have to know about it enough. As about all the platforms. So, well, I would say it doesn't require you really to know absolutely everything around that. Of course, it's not foolproof as any solution. It's not that easy to be foolproof. It is meant for citizen developers, so as well for people who does have a little bit of this technical attitude. So they just want to go into technicalities, want to read the documentation, want to try, debug, and then experiment. But I don't as well find it as something that difficult that adoption is going to take long months. So it's really a good platform for citizen developers. It is much easier than building views in SharePoint list formatting. So any other questions? We still have where is the timer? 4 minutes, or well, I can have even more minutes if you want to discuss. It's a pity you cannot unmute yourself. Maybe I can. So if anyone would like to discuss, I can make you a presenter so we can have a chat. Just raise your hand and that would be easier. Already. Or simply write down questions if you do have them. I see no questions, no raised hands. So speaking about those use cases, I would say that any kind of application that you're thinking of, any kind of application that you could think of building in SharePoint. So any kind of processes around, for example, requesting for travel, requesting for holidays, some onboarding processes, maybe as well financial processes. So those that from at least my experience, we were usually building Microsoft SharePoint because there were lists and libraries that were able to be used as a data source. Now can be simply moved to Microsoft Teams and build there. So you again have the teams, you can use these applications within the teams, or you can just create them as I was trying to show on the company level so that anyone within the organization can use them. The point is that the Dataverse is simply more efficient than building the same solutions on Microsoft lists and on SharePoint lists. Yes, you can. So if you do create a flow, then SharePoint is still the free connector. So you can still use SharePoint as the data source in Dataverse flows, in Dataverse for Teams flows. Thank you for all your kind words and appreciation. All right, people. So I think that I should now wish you a pleasant rest of the conference and a lot of interesting topics. I went through the agenda and it's really full packed with interesting topics. So have a good day or good afternoon or good evening for myself and others from UK and Netherlands. And I really hope that we will have the opportunity to meet somewhere, maybe even this year in person on any of the conferences that are upcoming, maybe second half of the year.